What's up, guys? It's been a while since I did a video like this, but I got something new. I got myself a V60, which is another pour-over brew method for coffee, just like the Kalita Wave and the Chemex, which I have videos on, which I will link right here. So why did I buy another pour-over brew method when I already have two other ones? And the simple answer is I am literally addicted to coffee. Now, that's not a bad thing. It's not like, I get the caffeine itches or anything like that. It is just like my number one hobby besides videos and photos and stuff like that is coffee. I want to learn as much as I can, and I want to try as much as I can. According to professionals, this is slightly different than some of the other methods. I've heard, and I don't know if this is completely true, but rumor has it that the V60 is one of the hardest pour-over types to do correctly, and that means to get like a balanced cup of coffee from your V60 versus Kalita Wave, which is supposed to be on the easier side, and a Chemex, which is a little bit more difficult. So the coffee that I had before the one that I have currently, I have tried in all three pour-over brew methods, so I can compare them all. And that coffee is Guatemala Finca Nueva Vinas, and that was from a roaster called Cafe Vida. I believe they're over in Seattle. I got it through trade.com, which is a nice and easy way to try a bunch of new coffees from all over the US. It wasn't necessarily my favorite coffee in the world. It was a little too dark for my taste, but nonetheless, I was able to compare all of those different brew methods with the same coffee, which is really the only way that you can nail down how you feel about it. I want to be clear, I am using a very specific method for the V60, which is James Hoffman's Ultimate V60 technique, which I will link above. If you haven't seen his stuff, it's truly amazing. I learn a bunch of new stuff about coffee all the time from him. But basically the technique is just you pour the grounds in the rinsed filter, make a little well in the center with your finger so that it's a little hollow before you do the bloom. And if you don't know what any of that means, do a little research. It's actually pretty cool. Maybe I'll make a video on coffee stuff like that in the future, the technicals, much like the video technicals that I've done. But yeah, you make a well in the center, you do your bloom so that everything gets saturated, you swirl it around, make sure there's no lumps, wait the 45 seconds. After that, you start your main brew. I do a brew of 300 grams of water per 18 grams of coffee. So it's a little bit of a lower dose than I've used in some of the other methods. My Chemex dose is 25 grams. My Kalita dose is 20 grams. So it's a little bit less than the others, but I feel like this technique yields similar results with less coffee, which is always good because that means you have the coffee for longer, you're spending less money. Once I get halfway through my 300 gram brew, so at like 185 grams, I usually like to hit that at around a minute and 15 seconds. I stop the swirling motion with the water pouring, and I pour directly in the center at a slower rate and hit 300, usually at around a minute and 45 seconds. Once I hit 300 grams, I take a spoon, stir in one direction, then the other, and once it drains a little bit, I swirl it again, just like I did at the beginning, to get some of the coffee off the sides and to make a flat bed at the end. Then I just let it drain. And I'd like to make a quick note before we move on from this. I do use more water in the bloom than James Hoffman suggested. I found that I wasn't saturating my grounds enough for my taste. So I use maybe about 5 to 10 grams more than he did. So it's more of a 3-to-1 versus a 2-to-1 ratio. So the V60 that I chose to buy is the plastic one, and that's for a couple of reasons. One, it's super cheap. I think I paid like $7 and change for this, which is way cheaper than some of the other things. I mean, the Chemex, the 6-cup version is like 50, 60 bucks. And the Kalita, just the brewer top like this was I think 25 by itself. So this is a much cheaper option. It is a little bit more difficult, but that's you know, very minuscule, I'd say. It's not as difficult as some people would have you believe. And the other reason that I chose plastic is breakability. If you drop it, chances are it's not gonna break. I have to worry a little bit less about stacking it on stuff, washing it. Also, it's super easy to wash. I don't have to worry about like the hot temperatures with the brew water versus rinsing it out in the sink afterwards. I've heard that you can even heat up your brewer and rinse your filter with hot faucet water instead of boiling kettle water, if that's something that you're into. I'm also using Hario official filters for this. So the size that I got for the brewer is a size 1. I think it goes 1, 2, and 3. And it's just dependent on how much coffee you want for end result. The size 1 is the smallest, the 3 is the biggest. Funny story about the filters, I bought a 3-pack of 100 each, so 300 filters on Amazon for pretty cheap actually. The filters are also cheaper than the other ones. But I bought it from Amazon, a 3-pack. I only received 2 packs of the 3, and I accidentally bought the size 2 instead of size 1. So I had to send it back. I got a full refund, which was nice. And then we got a 100-pack filter of the right size filters. And these filters are the Hario brand filters, so I would suggest you get those for the V60 since it is a Hario brewer. But these are the ones that I got as per James Hoffman's recommendation, either these or the original boxed ones. I didn't even see the other ones on Amazon, so if you're looking to buy stuff on there, these are the most accessible ones you'll find. And the reason I chose size 1 is I only make coffee for myself in the morning, so I don't need a size 2. A size 2 would have been fine for making what I make, and then occasionally if I wanted to make more for me and someone else, it could have been an option. But it was cheaper to buy the size 1, not by much, but by a little bit, and I really don't ever make coffee for more than myself. So before I get into my overall thoughts about this, let's talk about some taste comparisons and just general differences between this, the Kalita, and the Chemex. Since I did taste the same coffee with all 3 brewers, I can tell you that the V60 seems to give the most balanced, well-rounded cup of coffee if you do it right, and that's a big if. Because it takes a little bit of learning to get the method down correctly, because you can easily mess it up in the beginning. When I brewed with a Kalita, it was a little bit more forgiving. I don't know if that's because of the wave size of the filter or what that is, but it's a little bit more forgiving. You can kind of just pour in the circle pattern the whole time, let it fill up to the point where you want, decrease and fill back up to that point until you hit your desired ratio, and then just let it drain. I think I did swirl the Kalita as well. That was part of my normal method, but not everybody does that. I didn't stir it, I just swirled it. The Chemex I would usually stir, but not swirl at the end. Maybe sometimes I swirled it, but not always. It depends on, you know, your grind size and stuff. Obviously, all 3 of these brewers use different grind sizes, so be careful about that. The Chemex uses the most coffee to get the same taste pretty much in comparison to the others, so that's another thing of note. I would say that the Kalita is the easiest of the 3. It's a little bit more forgiving in terms of your technique versus the cup that you get at the end. I think the V60 and the Chemex are both slightly more rewarding at the end result if you do the methods correctly. And I think that the V60 gives you the most well-rounded cup. And I believe that might be partially due to the smaller grind size, so you can get the most out of the extraction versus the Chemex, which is a much coarser grind. So overall thoughts about the V60. What do I think about it? Will I be using it every single day? And the answer is yes. I have been for about the last week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. I haven't had it for that long, but I feel like I've really ran home with the technique. I know what I'm doing now. I can consistently get good results from it. I have a nice flat bed at the end, and the cups of coffee are just great. I had to adjust my grind size from what I thought it would be in the beginning. I use a Brazza Encore electric burr grinder. I was starting out at around 13, and now I think I'm at 11 or 10. And for the Kalita, I was using 14, so it really wasn't that much different at the beginning, but the coffee was a little hollow and sort of barren at the end of that, so I tweaked it, made it a little finer, and I feel like I'm getting more out of it now. And just for reference, I use a 21 setting for the Chemex on there. So yeah, I think for now I'm gonna stick with this little guy. Makes a really dang good cup of coffee in the morning, which is exactly what I need. And it's just, it's fun to use. I like, I mean, it's not complicated, but I like sort of technical brew methods. It's more fun. Wakes me up a little bit in the morning, even before your coffee. You have to pay attention to it. It's just an enjoyable experience. It seems a little more elegant than some of the other ways of making coffee, which is maybe a good or bad thing, or maybe who cares? At the end of the day, it makes a really good cup of coffee, so why wouldn't I keep using it? That's it for me on the V60, you guys. If you found this video helpful, entertaining, or fun, like I hope you did, let me know in the comments below. And if you want to see more from me, hit that subscribe button. But for now, I hope you have a great day.